Hello there, and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk to you about Tomb Kings. I tried to convert this to a PDF like the others, but this EPUB version of the Neokar and stuff, the Royal Host stuff, it's not taking very well, to be honest. It all comes up weird. So anyway, Tomb Kings are a really interesting faction. There's a lot of weirdnesses around the Tomb Kings because essentially they're unstable. So they're a bit like vampires and demons, but sort of not. So if we check out the generic special rules first, that gives us an idea as to like the flavour of the army, and we can move from there. Arrows of Asaph is like the best rule. Like no negative modifiers. No modifiers at all to hit rolls on shooting. Is incredibly strong if you want to build a heavy shooting list, and you can do that. Cleaving blow is like killing blow, but it doesn't kill, it just ignores regen or armor if you roll 6 to wound. Curse of the Necropolis, basically your Tomb Kings, if they die, they do D3 strength 2 hits with no AP, so largely ineffective, but might take a wound. Quite a lot of stuff has this dry as dust rule, which basically means if it gets hit with a flaming attack, then your opponent rolls a die, and on a 4-up you do another wound, which is pretty bad. But that's to the model, right? So if you've got like a single wound model, dry as dust does nothing, essentially. Indomitable is quite a cool rule. Firstly, it's not cumulative, but basically whatever your highest indomitable score is how much you reduce how many things die. So they've all got Nehekaran undead. They all cause fear. They're all unbreakable. They're all immune psychology. They're all unstable. So unstable means however much you lost around a combat by is how many wounds you suffer. So if you lost the combat by 8, then you'd suffer 8 wounds, and you can't save those wounds. So that would be 8 for the skeleton archers dead if it's skeleton archers, or 8 wounds off a dragon if a dragon lost by 8. Unit with a special rule. I've read this like 3 times and I still don't really understand what it means. A unit with a special rule that's arrayed in close order, equipped with enthusiast shields, may choose to give ground should it lose a round of combat. However, if the winning side significantly will overwhelm, if the unit strength of the winning side is more than twice that, must give ground as normal. Oh, it's this word. There's a word there, not. I've just missed every time I've read it. So basically, your Nehekaran phalanxes, which are phalanxes, or is it phalanges? I can't remember. Anyway, the phalanx, I think that's just a block of spearmen actually, but essentially like a block of spearmen, spear skellies. But a block of spear skellies, if it loses, it's unbreakable, it's unstable, so they can choose not to go back 2 inches if they don't want to. So essentially, if you've charged somebody, or if it's your opponent's turn next, you can choose not to give ground, just in order that they don't get to charge next turn, which could be useful because it stops those little 2-inch charges to get the effect of lances and stuff. There's rules on resurrection. There's quite a lot of abilities for you to bring back skeletons or heal wounds or whatever. Essentially, you heal characters first, then you heal multi-wound stuff, then you bring back the champion, and then rank and file. So there's no choice. There's a process. yeah, you've got to add models, create yourself a full rank, blah 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 blah. So that's the Tomb Kings of Khemri. Good shooting. A few characters have the ability to ignore armor. Flames hurt them quite a bit, and they do crumble. But some units are a bit more reliable than others. So the Grand Army composition list, and we will have a look at the other ones when we get to it. Well, in fact, we might as well look at the composition now. So in the Arcane Journal for the Tomb Kings of Khemri, you've got Nehekaran. Can I zoom in? No, I hate EPUB. This is why I want it in PDF, because it's so difficult to read. Anyway, so you've got a Nehekaran Royal Host, which is a bit more elite. So, you've got... so the standard, for instance, is you've got to have one unit of warriors or archers. You're allowed skirmishers. See, there's a wide variety of stuff that fits in the core, which is 25%, up to half spent on various characters. You've got to have a high priest or a mortuary priest, because they act as like the do they call it the hierophant? Is what they call it, isn't it? So the hierophant is essentially the wizard that knits the army together. Tomb Kings and Tomb Princes are not wizards, so you got to take a wizard to essentially raise the host. And the Tomb King or the Tomb Prince is the general, but that doesn't really have much of an impact, because what you're going to use his leadership for. But anyway, whatever. So yeah, then you got the War Sphinxes and Scorpions. So you got elite sort of stuff in the special, and then rare you've got the massive monsters, Screaming Skull Catapults. You can have 2 per 1,000, so you can have 4, and you can have a casket of souls per 1,000 points. So you could have 2 caskets in 2,000 points. I mean, I'd suggest not a good idea, but you can. The allies list is quite interesting as well. So you could take some Warriors of Chaos if you wanted to, as like a bit of an ally. So that's again quite interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, something occurred to me I actually had a battle yesterday finally, and it's kind of turned my opinion of various spells on its head. Other than that, I think everything else is fine. Anyway, so the Nehekaran Royal Host, they've got to spend a third on core choices rather than 25%. Everything else is the same. And then the Mortuary Cult, which is kind of like a prince sort of, a priesty sort of cult. So this is kind of like more for your high priest, mortuary priests. You don't have to have a Tomb Prince if you don't want to. So this is like a kind of a more sort of wizardly thing. Again, you got to have a third on core choices. There's no mandatory though, so you got pretty much flexibility to choose that sort of stuff. There are some new units in this. You've got some elite stuff, including these Venerable Ushabti, which are, new. And Colossosaur. Stupid words for things. A Necrolith Colossosand, or a Colossosaur. Like, why not just say colossal? Like, I mean, or just drop that word. What's the point? Like, there's no... Like, some of these naming conventions, I just find a bit weird, because it's like, you don't need that word, so why add it? Like, it's just confusing and annoying. So it's like a Necrolith Colossosaur Necrosphinx. Okay, so the Colossosaur and a Colossosand. So apparently there's 2 different types of Necrosphinx. Which, is that right? I mean, is there? There's some characters and stuff in here. The other problem with like an EPUB is there's no like, what is? Oh no, I don't know. Oh no, hold on. There is Necro No, I don't think there is a difference. I think they've misspelt one. Colossus Sand. Monster. Necrolith Bone Dragon. War Sphinx. Colossus. That's just a giant. Necro Sphinx. What are they talking about? Oh, that's for download, so you don't want to look at that. Ugh, I've been trying to find a bloody PDF converter, and I just can't get one that actually works. Right, so I want that file. So Necrolith, Colossus, or Necro Sphinx? Necro Sphinx. Necrolith, Colossus. Oh, it's the EPUB not working properly. It's not a Colossus. It's a Necrolith Colossus or a Necro Sphinx. Necrolith Colossus and oh, idiot. Apologies if you were sat there tearing your hair out going, Dan, you're an idiot. It's not a Latin weird Warhammery thing. It's just an and. Apologies. Anyway, yeah. So let's go back to look at the generic characters. So we've talked about the army composition. We've talked about the special rules. The Law of Nekara, actually I'll talk about this because these are a bit like special rules. So these are, your signature spells. You can take these instead of your normal signature spell. So just one. Reroll hit rolls of 1. Any Nekaran undead within the caster's command range. Jaff's incantation of Cursed Blades is amazing, especially if you've got a wizard on a dragon, because your command range goes up to 18 inches, right? So then basically the whole army is now re-rolling hit rolls of 1. That's brilliant. And you can choose it, so it's great. There's a hex. 15-inch range is pretty good. Target enemy unit is -1 strength and toughness, but it gets rid of other hex effects. Xar, it'd be Xar, wasn't it? Xar's incantation of the desert wind is a self. Cast with the casting result 6 or more. Single friendly unit that has Nekaran undead within the casting gains reserve move. Reserve move is pretty good. Casting on 10 or more, every friendly unit Nekaran gets a reserve move within command range. Again, on a dragon, that's amazing. In fact, I think Xar's incantation is probably better than Jaff's, because Xar's allows you to essentially march your entire army, which that's a massive weakness of the undead in general. They can't march. So this essentially gives you another move at the end of the shooting phase. So it's brilliant. So I'd be looking for that. That's a pretty good spell to have. So this is your Tomb King, Tomb Prince. They've got pretty good stat lines. They're reasonably cheap. They have this ability called My Will Be Done, which is essentially you can give a unit. So they take a leadership test with their own leadership. If they pass, the unit that they're in gets either plus D3 movement, plus 1 weapon skill, plus D3 initiative. So that's pretty cool. If you have a king and a prince, it's not cumulative. So if you've got a king and a prince, put them in different units, obviously. Well, for this purpose, I mean, you do what you like, really. They've got regen 5, but they've got flammable, which means that flaming attacks cancel off regen, and that's pretty consistent throughout the whole thing. You've got wizards. You've got a Royal Herald, which is the battle standard bearer, but sort of not. Reroll any failed leadership test within command range, which is going to be 12 inches, because it's a battle standard bearer, and reduce the number of wounds lost to unstable by D3, which is down here as not being cumulative with Indomitable. So this is good in those units that don't have Indomitable. So as you can see from the character, I think he's got 2, hasn't he? Yeah, so the Tomb King and the Tomb Prince have got Indomitable 2. So what that means is that if he loses combat by, let's say, 3, actually you only take 1 wound due to Indomitable. This isn't entirely useless because I don't think anything's got Indomitable 3. So you could still roll a 3, which would be better than the 2 that it's got. So it gives you, might give you a bit of a bonus, but generally speaking, good near your skellies who don't have Indomitable. Should a monarch... Now, actually, that's a good point. Indomitable... A unit with this special rule. I think the character confers that to the unit. So if the Tomb King is in a unit, the unit gets Indomitable too. It doesn't say that here, so that's what I'd go with, because that's kind of the point of having them. Yeah, there's some other stuff there, but that's fine. Lich priests. So you got a high priest and you've got a mortuary priest. So a mortuary priest is like your level 1-2 wizard. Your high priest is your level 3-4 wizard. Yeah, it's got this arise ability, which is how you bring stuff back. So you take a leadership test during the command subphase. So that's before rallying. So they're not going to be fleeing anyway because they're unbreakable. So that's done. Not doing very well today. I've got a bit of a headache. Single friendly unit with Nehakaran undead within 12 inches. So not command range, 12 inches. Recovers number of wounds. It's level of wizardry plus D3 if it's regular infantry, light cav, heavy cav, war beast level. So it's level of wizardry apart from plus a modifier. Apart from if it's a heavy chariot, monstrous creature, behemoth. So big stuff only recovers a single wound. So it's more difficult to heal larger entities, but you know you still can. So level 4, you know, gives you basically 4 plus D3 skellies back a turn, which is pretty cool. And I think that's it for... Oh no, there's a Necrotex, isn't there yet? During the... Right, so if you've got stuff that's in reserve, you can use your Lich Priest to pass the leadership test, and then they can summon the unit completely within 12. The unit that you've just summoned can't then charge and counts as moving for the purposes of shooting, but otherwise can act as normal. Which, you know, it's okay. And this is the rule about the Hierophant. Yeah, and basically you've got the highest level wizard in the army is the Hierophant. If they die, then at the phase in which they die, you take a leadership test for every single unit in your army, and however much you fail that leadership test by is how many wounds that unit suffers. And then every single of your start of turn sub phases, so that's like right at the start of the battle, so that's the start of the strategy phase is start of turn, you then do the same thing. So your army just starts to crumble when the Hierophant dies, and the units have pretty low leadership. So yeah, so when we get down to like the Tomb Guard are like the best infantry in the army, and they're only leadership 7, so crumbling is likely. Then we've got the Necrotect, which has the ability to again take a leadership test, and if it's passed, the unit that it's in gets an extra attack and hatred, so reroll hits, which I think is pretty good for 55 points. I think that's okay. It's like a super champion, really, isn't it, for Eternal Taskmaster? That's pretty good. It can't be mounted though, so it's kind of like something that makes you, and your infantry's not great, so nah. That said, and this is quite interesting, the Mortuary Cult have an Arch Necrotect, which is like that but better. Can you, where's the Arch Necrotect there? So is he allowed to mount? No. So what's the Arch Necrotect have? It's character. Oh, it can improve the regen of a big thing just within command range. It doesn't need to be within line of sight. Okay. Huh. 90 points. So that's another 45 points for another wound. I mean, they're pretty crap in combat anyway. Another wound. And the ability to make your constructs better. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's possibly worth it. Not sure. You've got the mounts that you'd expect. You can, you put it on a steed or a chariot or a bone dragon or a war sphinx. I prefer the war sphinx for the bone dragon for a tomb king. And I think if I was going to take a bone dragon, it would definitely be for a high priest. I think that's probably what I'd do, because it just makes your Hierophant more survivable. And it's not a total waste, because you've still got breath weapons, and breath weapons are pretty good. And this breath weapon's actually not too bad, because it's strength 3, which is quite weak, but AP 2 is pretty good, and it's multiple wounds too, so that's also quite nasty. Especially if you're hitting like units of ogres or something, because they're going to be no save. You might wound a few and then do quite a few wounds, so that could be pretty bad for them. So I don't think that's a total waste if you've got like your Hierophant on a dragon. And then also you can just charge it into combat and do a bit of damage if you need to, but you can essentially use this to keep him safe. And also, I suppose the other thing, just before I move on, is 195 points is not that expensive for a dragon. Anyway, considering the character themselves, where's the bloody... yeah, so you're up to like... what's that? 1, 2, 3... Yeah, 345 points before magic items. Oh, sorry, 375 points before magic items. So you get a character up to like 400 and something points for what? Toughness 5, 8 wound, Lich Priest. It's pretty good. The characters in Tomb Kings are quite expensive though, and we'll have a look at that in a bit actually, because I think they're a bit too expensive, to be honest. I'm not sure. I suppose they can bring stuff back. Anyway, Tomb Guard. Yeah, I mean, they're just elite skellies. The Unbreakable is great. They've got regen. They've only got light armor and shields. They can take halberds, which means they've only got light armor, so they'll just like get smashed pretty easily. You can give them drilled and give them their Karan phalanx, which is, we choose not to get pushed back. You're going to want a block of all of these like combat infantry. You want a block of about 40 for them to be effective. So this is going to be a quarter of your army if you're going to take some Tomb Guard. You could possibly get away with like 30 maybe. 20 is probably too small, because one decent cavalry charge against them and they just all crumble. So I'm not sure they're much cop. You got Skeleton Warriors who are dirt cheap, 4 points each, 40 of them, you're talking 160, about 200 points for a big block of 40 skellies. That's great. They can take a round of combat. Nobody's going to kill 20 in a turn. Like, wow, I mean, not nobody, but it's really unlikely somebody's going to kill 20 in a turn. So you're going to have a banner and you're going to have some left alive that you can then start to rebuild and bring back and blah, 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 blah. So the Skeleton Warriors, I think they're going to be the big infantry block if that's your army choice. Skeleton Archers, now, yes, they hit on 5s, and yes, they've got war bows, which only have a 24-inch range, I think, rather than 30. I think longbows are 30 and war bows are 25. Hold on, I'll just have a look at the... We need to know what they are. God damn it. Why is it always open with everything expanded? Why am I such a whinge pot? Like, I whinge about everything. Right, here we go. Warbows. Yeah, 24-inch range, strength of the user. They do have volley fire, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, longbows are 30 and strength. I don't get that. Longbows are definitely strength 3. Other bows are strength user. Sorry, short bows are strength 3. Warbows are for some reason strength user. Like, that's a bit weird. Anyway, no, that's not what I'm looking at. Yeah, well, not yet anyway. Oh no, here we go. Sorry, getting confused. So we've got some skeleton skirmishers. You can give them warbows and shields and stuff. These have the chariot runners rule, which makes them pretty useful, to be honest. What that means is you can really use these guys to like screen your chariots. The chariot runners rule, just to remind you. Oh, bloody idiot. Yeah, so friendly. So essentially, your chariots can draw a line of sight over and through models with this rule. So essentially, your chariots can still shoot. Because remember, your chariots have bows too. And also, chariot runners in skirmish formation. If the chariots move, would result in ending on top. Move the chariot runner aside to make space. So they can move through as well, so that means they can also charge through. So these chariot runners act as an amazing screen for your chariots. So with the arrows of Asaf, you can move your 5 inches, which is a pretty meaty move. So you can move your 5 inches, probably with a reserve move, so 10 inches. That's so you move your 5 inches, shoot your warbows, move another 5 inches, create some distance between. But if somebody charges into them, and they're only 4 points, 5 points with warbows, and that's probably what you'd end up doing with them. But these are, 5 points, so they cost the same as your skeleton archers, and they're just like 10 times better. Just loads better. Like I don't know why you'd go for archers over skirmishers, especially if you're building out chariots. Because again, they're skirmishers, so they're -1 to hit for shooting. These aren't. Like, the thing that I suppose archers have is this detachment rule. So if you were going for infantry, they've presumably got, so these have got regimental unit. So what you can do is make a big block of 40 of them, and then have 2 units of 20 archers, like either side of the block of infantry, and then essentially the 2 units of skeleton archers can then stand and shoot if and when somebody charges the skeleton warriors. So it just makes them a bit more of a you're going to give them thrusting spears, probably going to give them light armor. So that's going to make them 6 points each, isn't it? So you're probably looking at about 300 points for that. But if that's how you want to build it out, but if you're going like chariot heavy, then you probably want skirmishers instead. Ushabti. These are lovely models. I love the Ushabti. They're brilliant. And the rules for them are pretty good as well. I mean, they've got heavy weapons. They've got these ritual blades, which make them initiative 1, which is such a shame because their initiative was 2. So, obviously there's some massive upgrades. It makes them strength 6, AP 3. Like, that's or you can give them great bows for free, which are same range as longbows, strength 6, which is awesome, AP 1, armor bane 2, multiple wounds 2, and they got volley fire if you want to build a big block of 6 of them Ushabti archers. And the Ushabti archers models are lovely. So yeah, you can have a champion. Do they have arrows? They do have arrows of Asaf, so they always hit on 4s to shoot, regardless of range or whatever. So they're pretty good actually. I quite like them. 50 points for 3 super snipers. Nice. And then they replace. So they have hand weapons if you give them bows. Oh yeah, and because it's like the gods and goddesses. I mean, we're looking like Egypt. Like they've got like you've got Set and all the Osiris and all the kind of the godly figures. So I think it's quite cool. I mean, obviously those aren't the gods of the Nekaren, but they look very similar for some reason. Team Swarms are great because you can give them ambushes. They've got poisoned attacks. They've got 5 wounds a base. No save or whatever. 40 points. So, unit size is 2, but they do have ambushes, which is pretty cool. So for like nearly 80 points, you can have a unit of swarms that just pop onto your opponent's backfield and cause a bit of a nuisance to war machines, that kind of thing. So, if they've got 2 or 3 cannon, you can get rid of them in a few turns with just 80 points of team swarms, which is great. Carrion are alright. They've got fly 10. These, and there's 2 in a unit, so 54 points for something that's essentially going to fly around and try to block some marches. That's kind of their job. Just sort of get to the side or the rear of your enemy and, do march blocking. So your opponent then has to take a leadership test if they want to march while they're within, I think it's 8 inches. So if you're within 8 inches of the enemy, you have this enemy sighted rule, and that basically means you got to take a leadership test in order to march. So you flap these over. 50 points to stop your opponent from marching, or to limit the ability of them to march, is a really good unit. So carrying a cool. I mean, that said, Skeleton Horsemen can do it as well, because again, if you give them a reserve move, you can give them counter charge. I mean, it's pretty pointless because they've got no armor save anyway, so they're going to die if they get in combat. So to be honest, I wouldn't even bother giving them light armor. It's just a waste of points, isn't it? Really, Although I suppose 8 of them. Do they have chariot runners? No, I think in one of the in the royal host they might get chariot runners, but we'll have a look at that in a sec. So. Because if they do get chariot runners, they're pretty good. I think you can make them. Can you make them skirmishers? No. Oh, I thought you could. Huh. Can you give them bows? Can't you give them bows? Am I looking at something? I thought you could have horse archers. Oh, maybe not. Oh. Idiot. Yes, you can have horse archers. They're a separate thing. So skeleton horse archers. Arrows of Asaf, scout skirmishes, reserve move. Oh, they get reserve move anyway. That's really good. And they got scouts. Yeah, bugger the carrion. Take these. So because they've got skirmishes, you can basically move them 8 inches, shoot your bows, then move them 8 inches again. Which is great. Do they have? No, they won't need fast cavalry. So fast cavalry is basically, it's an open order thing. So these are open order and skirmishers. So you can form up into open order and do that, or you can have them skirmish, and you can give them chariot runners here. That's what I was thinking about. So these are brilliant because you can get them like a really good distance ahead of your chariots. Your enemy then charges them. Hopefully, like one survives or whatever. And then you can smash that unit with chariots. And remember, if your move ends up with you going on top of chariot runners, you move the chariot runner model to one side. While in skirmish formation, can treat friendly chariots that are within 1 inch or more as part of the coherency. Simply, it doesn't say anything about combat. So what I take that to mean is, like, if you've got like the enemy unit there and you've got one model there, your chariots come in, you can move your chariot runner to the side, even in combat. So they're pretty cool. Remember, no modifiers to shooting means that when your opponent shoots you, you're still hitting them on 5s, stand and shoot. Sorry, when your opponent charges you, you're still hitting on 5 standard. So you get a bonus round of shooting. And they're relatively inexpensive. Like, 8 of them would be like 88 points. I wouldn't bother with light armour, but it's like 88 points to protect your chariots and make sure your chariots get their impact hits. Absolute bargain. Then you got Necropolis Knights, which I'm not sold on them, to be honest, rules wise. I mean, the models are cool as hell, but like, They've got cleaving blow, which is okay. I mean, they do have a decent amount of attacks, and you know, as you saw, there are spells that you can take that give you more attacks. So yeah, not sold on them though. They're fairly slow. They are monstrous cav. Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of attacks. Poisoned attacks on the Necroserpent, which isn't amazing because they've got strength 5 anyway, so they're indomitable. They've got a Kopesh, which is if you're using the hand weapon instead of the cavalry spear, you get AP 1, I think. Yeah. They've got a 4-up save because they've got Armoured Hide 1, which is basically barding. Light armour, so 6, 5, 4-up save. So they're your heavy cavalry. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about things I don't think are any good. And then you've got Sepulchral Stalkers, who are not chariots. They're the other version of these. They just don't have skellies on the top of them. Are slightly cheaper and have this petrifying gaze thing, which actually is okay because it's no armor save, it's strength 2, and it uses your opponent's initiative instead of its toughness. So rubbish against elves, great against dwarves, basically. Makes no difference to Chaos Warriors, who have toughness 4 and initiative 4. So I don't know whether these are any good either. For 50 points, they seem quite expensive. You can give them ambushes, so you know. Remember, your priests can like pass a leadership test and make stuff pop up near them, like on the table, which I think is a really good ability. So if you're going like a priest heavy list, then possibly stuff rising from the sands all over the place. Here we go. Here's the meat and potatoes. Chariots. They're light chariots, so you can have them in a big unit. They've got no armor. I mean, this is the theme of the Nehakarans. It's don't really believe in armor, but they're all like Bronze Age, so like this is before armor was really invented. So we've got 3 wounds. You know, the 43 points, which you know you compare that with so there are 11 points. So you can take 1 chariot and 1 skeleton archer for a Necropolis Knight. So you're going to get your impact hits because you've got your chariot runners to just get in the way. Remember, chariot runners also can block line of sight, so you can stop your opponent, like, you know, getting line of sight. And what you can do actually is you can put the bases like that, so they kind of, you know, angle up. So you can see through them still because they're chariot runners, and your opponent can't see you because there's friendly model in the way. Do they have... They don't have dry as dust, and they've got indomitable. These guys have got dry as dust, so they're really susceptible to flaming. They don't like flaming. They are open order, which is pretty good. They've got swift stride. They've automatically got reserve move, so they can move up behind your horse archers like lockstep, really. So skeleton chariots are really, really, really good. Mainly because of all the impact hits. You know, D3 impact hits, strength 4. That's pretty good. Going into combat in the first turn. However, if they don't break a unit, you know, they're not that good. They've got the horde rule, which I find a bit weird, because like, you know, you need light chariots need 3 to have a rank. So if you had 12 in like a 3x4 block, which would be like 700 points, you'd get an extra rank bonus. But who the hell would do that? I don't get why that rule. That is what Horde does, doesn't it? I just want to check. Horde. Yeah, it's the increased maximum rank bonus. So I don't get why they've got that rule. If that rule added a point to it, get rid of it, G-Dub, because they don't need it. They're never going to use it. Duh. Necrolith Bone Dragon. We've talked about him. He's pretty cool. The War Sphinx, again, I prefer it for a king because it's basically a chariot. It adds 5 wounds, so that's the same. It's slightly cheaper, sort of, but you're going to want to put the Tomb Guard on, so it's probably the same price. I think the Fiery Roar is useful. It can't fly, but like it does. It feels a lot tougher, and it feels like it'll do a lot more damage. I don't know why. It just feels better. Oh yeah, and because it's a yeah. It's a chariot mount rather than a ridden monster. They do need to sort out the rules for mounts, because what they've done is they've said that the special rule that applies to the ride also applies to the model. So like with high elves, you've just given strike first to dragons. I mean, if you put a prince on them, like, did you really mean that? It also means like the War Sphinx in this instance would also get rise if your Tomb King is allowed to do rise, so you could do 2 rise. Yeah, because that is a special rule. So I think they need to sort out the ridden monster thing. But yeah, where is it, monster? You got Tomb Scorpions are great, 70 points. For something that has Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. Like, it might do absolutely nothing, but one of these in your army I don't think can hurt, because if your opponent's got this impossible to kill monster, just charge that in on the off chance that you hit with a couple and then you roll a 6 to wound, because then you just killed it. You know, it's just gone in, and or it dies. That's really what it does. So you've then got the Necrolith Colossus, which is the model without the Howdah, so it's like a War Sphinx with the 2 big wing blade things. Great Kopeshes, which have Killing Blow. It's got 4 attacks. I mean, it's got this, so every attack it makes, it causes an unsaved wound and allows to make an additional attack. These additional attacks also benefit from the special rule. So as long as you keep wounding, it can just keep going. So the 4 attacks, it's not really how many attacks it's got. However, it is weapon skill 3, so it's not going to be that effective. You know, you might kill 2 and then hit with 1, and then so you might end up with like 6 or 7 attacks at the end of the day, killing 2 or 3 models. But it's just not, you know. And then it's got some stomps. So stomp attacks would also benefit from this, wouldn't it? And because it's a behemoth, its stomps have AP2 as well. During the combat phase, so if it charges, yeah, stomps benefit from that as well. So I didn't think that through before. I didn't realise that the stomps, that makes it quite cool, because you get 2 auto hits with that on a unit that's that could do a lot of damage, and it's got timber, which is great, which means when it dies it could crush stuff. Oh, please say timber. They use the word attack. Hits. Damn it. And then you got a Necro Sphinx, which is a Necro Sphinx. It looks a bit like a War Sphinx, but without the Howdah, I think. So yeah, it's a monster. It does some damage. It's not great, to be honest. It's good with a king on, but not so good on its own, I think. Screaming Skull Catapult is not bad, because it's 105 points, so it's more or less the same as any other catapult, really. It looks like a stone thrower. However, it has the Screaming Skulls rule, which means that any wounds cause panic, so you don't have to do it also adds a -1 modifier to leadership, so to any unit within 2d6 of the central whole of the blast template. So if it hits a unit, it causes a couple of casualties out of like a 30-man unit of Chaos Warriors that are now testing at -1 to the leadership. So that's pretty good, to be honest. The Skulls of the Foe, this leadership debuff does cost an extra 20 points. You're probably going to want 2 of them, realistically, just to get a bit more reliability. So that's 250 points. You know, you can get quite a bit else for 250 points. So I suppose you could take 1 and upgrade it to Skulls of the Foe, couldn't you? So that's... The other thing as well is because it causes like a single wound panic test thing, if your opponent's quite reliant on screens, you can use these catapults first off to take out the screens because they've normally got terrible leadership. So, I mean, that's pretty good. So one of these with Skulls of the Foe, even, you know, you might debuff the leadership of a couple of screens, and then you only need a few shooting casualties to get them to break. So I think there is utility for the Screaming Skull catapult in a list. Casket of Souls, it's immovable, which I don't like because movement is like a key part of winning a battle, like making sure you're in the right place to take advantage of stuff. It does give you +1 to cast to wizards, your lich priests, and also bound spells, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it can't be moved. I mean, it does allow you to do these things, right? Oh, it's got the curse thing, whatever. That's a bit more powerful than the other curse, but, you know, don't care. So it's got a couple of bound spells with a power level of 3. So this one's cast on 7, so you need a 4. So you roll 2 dice, add the power level, rather than the wizard's level. So, you know, you need a 4 to get that one off. 36-inch range is pretty long. Enemy unit suffers some hits. It's got to take a leadership test. If it passes, it suffers some hits, and if it fails, it suffers more horrible hits. Light of Death is pretty nasty if they're failing the leadership test. So, you know, elite stuff is probably not. Light of Protection gives pretty much your whole army that's near it a 6-up ward. So remember, the death save is a regen, so you get a ward and a regen of 6-up. So that can be pretty useful. However, if it casts Light of Death, then it cancels off the Light of Protection. And an enchantment's done in your hero phase, that's done in your shooting phase. So there's no way that you can have both. So again, like for 135 points, you've got a slightly naff cannon. I mean, I'm not sold. I think it's quite expensive. If it was like an 80 point upgrade, that feels about right, but 135 seems a bit much, really. Again, because it's almost certainly going to be your Hierophant's going to be going on this, right? So, like, yeah. In fact, is it only the Hierophant? Is it? Is it just like a standalone model? I thought it was like a thing that you. So you just take it. It's just a standalone model. Okay, I thought it was a mount for like a wizard. That's changed my mind on it, to be honest. I think it might be worth it then. But then again, I don't know. Like, it is just a slightly naff cannon for 135 points. I mean, it does have like a benefit. Oh, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on that one, whether it's any good or not. Magic items. She's got an amazing sword, Destroyer of Eternities. Can do like D6 automatic hits at strength +2, AP 2, or it can roll to hit as normal. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't do a scything attack. D6 automatic hits sounds great. with Killing Blow, which is on wounds, so the automatic hits doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Well, it should be for 75 points. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. That's pretty good, actually. Armor of Ages, because it debuffs your opponent. They've got to reroll successful wound rolls, which is again pretty good. Crown of Kings is pretty useful for a monarch because it allows you to heal back some horse archers or warriors or blah blah blah. So your chariot screens, you can heal a few of those back. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure. There was something else that I thought was pretty good in here, but I can't find it. Terror's great. So just like if you've got like a Hierophant that's joined a unit of Skellies or whatever, that's fantastic for 20 points. Because, it's a very cheap upgrade to a unit. Having a big block of 40 Skellies causing terror, Because, I mean, that's useful for a whole load of things. Because even if you're up against something that causes fear, then that's got to take a fear test to charge you because you cause terror now. So, that's really good. That wasn't what I was thinking about. Yeah, this one, Scarab Brooch, that's also really good for a Lich Priest because essentially you're from below ability. You've got a range of 18 inches. So if you're building into that kind of, I want loads of stuff that's in reserve and it's going to pop up as the battle goes on, that's pretty useful. And that's the standard Tomb Kings. Then we have the non-standard Tomb Kings. So what we've got is the Army of Kings and we've got the Army of Priests. So we've talked about the army composition, that's slightly different. And now we've talked about the main Nerkaran list, we can I think if you just compare like the characters, that normally gives you an idea of what's going on. So in a normal army list, you've got to have essentially a royal, you've got to have a priest, you can have more royals and more of the top royals and priests. But you can only have one. No, you can 1 plus 0 to. How? This is stupid. Right. Sorry. I've not actually read it and thought about it yet. But 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. So if you don't have 1,000 points in your army, you can't take a Tomb King because you're only now 1 per 1,000 points. But you've got to take a Tomb King. Like. Come on. It's like... okay, whatever. So anyway, so you got to have a royal, you got to have a priest, and you're limited to royals and priests, but not mortuary priests. So you can have a mortuary... Okay, so if you got less than 1,000 points, you can have a tomb prince and a mortuary priest, and that's your... Right. I see. Sorry. No, I'm just being thick again. And then you got more, and you got the necrotects, which are unlimited. Okay, so royal, priest, necrotects are kind of like additional. With the Nerkaran royal host, you don't need any priests, and the reason for that is that the general must be a Tomb King or Tomb Prince. For 35 points, this character may have the Arise and be a level 1 wizard. If so, Necromance, and must be chosen as Hierophant. So your Tomb King or Tomb Prince, you can choose. I mean, obviously, you could decide to keep with your Mortuary Priest, which is not a High Priest, that's your lower level priest, and have that as your Hierophant. Or you can make your Tomb King a level 1 wizard and then they become a priest. Could wear armor without penalty, which is pretty good. You can get some skeleton skirmishers with ambushes for free, which is pretty helpful, pretty useful. They only have the Arise rules. They don't have the take a leadership test to summon from below thing. The general, I mean, if it's a king or priest, so that's not amazingly helpful. Rerolling impact hits is mega. Because instead of getting D3, you're more likely to get, in fact, you're pretty likely to get 3 every single time. So 3 chariots go in, instead of averaging 6, you're likely to average 9. Which, you know, I mean, they're not, the impact hits aren't that strong, but the special rule can volley when it moved or whilst performing stand and shoot. Yeah, you can't volley fire during stand and shoot, but you can, these guys can. So if you're going for skeleton skirmishers, skeleton archers and chariots, that's what this army's for. You can have a chariot runners unit for free. You know, I mean, these are pretty boring and lazy in terms of rule writing, but like it does what you know, it leads people down the path of, well, I need some horse archers and give them chariot runners so they can screen off my chariots. I'll probably go for a big block, so even if somebody charges them, you know, they've got to actually do a bit of damage. And then that unit, yeah, so you could have like a massive field of horse archers, like, you know, I don't know, like 20 or 30 of them just to screen your entire army. And then you got some skirmishers that can pop up later on and just harass your opponent's war machines. So they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I like that. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. Then you've got the mortuary cult, which, you know, priest, no king allowed. So it's kind of like the opposite. This is a more priestly thing, and they have this new thing called an arch necrotect, which we've already looked at. They're allowed team swarms of Shabti and Necro Serpents as core. So you can have an army wholly made up of constructs, which I think I quite like that. I mean, would that be the sort of thing I'd buy? I think I might buy that, actually. Mainly because I hate painting chariots. I mean, like, the chariots are cool, but I hate painting them. It's like I hate painting tanks. They're just one thing that I just really don't like doing. And here's the big man, the king of all, or so he thinks. King of the great king of Nekara, the imperishable Kemrikara, king of kings, opener of the way, wielder of the divine flame, punisher of nomads, the great unifier, commander of the Golden Legion, sacred of appearance, bringer of light, father of hawks, builder of cities, protector of the two worlds, pretentious prick, is what all that says. Anyway, 445 points is no joke. That's a lot of points for an 8. I mean, 8 wounds is quite a lot. Toughness 5 is also quite good. So he's reasonably survivable. He's got a 4 up save and a 5 at ward, though. 5 at ward somewhere else. Like, that's not a lot of defense. I suppose he's got a 6 up regen built in because he's undead. But he is flammable and dry as dust. So he could just be taking extra wounds from flaming stuff, and a lot of stuff in this version of the game has flaming attacks. So yeah, he's a level 1 wizard. Like, I thought he might be more for that many points. I'd like to see him like a level 3, really, but whatever. He does a decent amount of impact hits, given he's a heavy chariot. You know, they're hitting at strength 5, AP 2, so that's pretty good. He's going to be the general, so he's probably going to be re-rolling those, because you're probably going to take him in a royal host because you want chariots. he's got a special rule that says he can join a unit of chariots despite the fact that... So he counts as a light chariot when he's joining a unit of light chariots. So he can join a unit of chariots. The problem is that just makes him more expensive. Because chariots are what, like 40 points? So you're going to want like 5 of them, probably. So you're going to have a block of stuff on the table that's worth 700 or 800 points. It's quite a lot. He can use a rise in combat though, so even if your opponent pins you into combat with so they charge you, you get pushed back, they follow up, blah blah blah. You can still try and resurrect a chariot, but remember it's your level plus, so it's just 1 plus, so it's not great. He's got to accept challenges unless his emissary Nekaf is in the same combat. He's got to be the general and must be the Hierophant, blah blah blah. Command range 18. Yeah, I mean, like I said, as a Hierophant, I'd prefer probably a High Priest on a dragon, which is more or less the same points, to be honest. But I'm not sold. Yeah, there's the stuff about the chariot, blah blah blah. Then My Will Be Done affects all friendly units. That's the plus D3 move, plus 1 weapon skill, plus something. Again, whatever. Blessed Blade of Tra. Strength, so he's strength 6, wasn't he? Yeah, so strength 6, AP 3, flaming, magical. Is pretty cool. However, this note is amazing. -1 to hit. So if an enemy model takes a wound from the Blessed Blade of Tra, then it's -1 to hit, shooting and combat for the rest of the game. So that's pretty good, but is it worth 450 points? I'm really not sure he's worth 450 points. Because I really don't know what he adds to the army. I mean, I think in a royal host, I think if you're going to take him, you've got to take a royal host. You've got to heavily lean into chariots. You've got to get a big block of horse archers to keep him alive and make sure he gets a goddamn charge off. You're going to really have to lean into what this is telling you to do to get any value out of him. Then his emissary, Nekaf, is... does he have a... No, he's just on foot, which is a bit weird. So you're going to have to put him with Team Guard. He's never going to be in the same combat, though, because he's only on foot. I mean, because... Yeah, well, he's not never, but I mean, it's so unlikely. His weapon is great, by the way. Like, strength 6, AP 2, multiple wounds... It's a flail with magical attacks basically, but it's pretty good. Well, multiple wounds is not a flail thing. It's only the strength modifier that doesn't apply. That only applies during the first round of combat. So he's pretty good. Oh, what was Settra's Indomitable? It's got to be like 5. No, it's 3. So I don't know. I'd have given him like Indomitable like 8 or something, just been silly with it. Because it's Settra, you want to be a bit silly with him. So, I mean, I suppose that's the thing. I'm looking at Settra and thinking he should be way better than that. But that's maybe because I'm skewed from knowing what his rules used to be. And he's just a lot weaker. Anyway, you got this Arch Necrotect. We've had a look at that. What have we looked at? Prince Apophis, the Cursed Scarab Lord. That's the model where it's a bloke made out of scarabs. So this guy's pretty cool. He's a regular infantry. He's a loner, isn't he, I think? Is he a loner? Yeah, he's a loner, so he's got to go on his own. And he kind of floats around the battlefield. 130 points. 4 wound model. He's got Fly 9, though. When he dies, everybody around him takes 2d6 strength 2 hits with an AP of 1. That's a worthwhile curse. That's what I think like all of the curses should have been, to be honest. he's like a bit of a assassin, so you pick a character that he's going to try and kill, and then he can reroll hits or wounds against them. I mean, he's strength 4, 5 attacks, weapon skill 4, so he's not great. And he's got this breath weapon as well, so he's kind of like a mobile breath weapon that always wounds on a 4 regardless of toughness. So, I mean, why bother with it being strength 2? Because it's never going to be better than a 4 either. So it's a bit weird. I thought that would have had more AP, but obviously not. I mean, again, he's a bit underwhelming. I mean, he just causes terror, so I suppose you can go around the battlefield with flying. Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see the use. So he basically flies around the battlefield and then charges like chaff units to get them to break because of terror, or like units of archers or peasants or stuff like that. So he's got a fairly situational limited use. Skeleton infantry cohorts. These are for Royal Host. When mustering, I hate e-readers because it cocks up where letters are. When writing your muster list, a skeleton infantry cohort must contain at least 10 Royal Host warriors and 10 Royal Host warriors. Oh, it's like, has it got motley crew? Yeah, so it's like a mixed a unit that's sort of made up of mixed warriors and archers. So I think Royal Host archers, Royal Host warriors always occupy the front rank. When writing, must contain 10 of each. Warriors occupy the front rank. Oh, I don't understand that. That's a bit of a weird rule. Venerable Ushabti are pretty good. I really like them. They've just got ritual blades, so these don't have bows. But I think you get them in the mortuary cult, don't you? Yeah, so they're special here. So you can have like some Ushabti as like the core of your army, like with bows, to essentially snipe at the enemy from distance. And then the Venerable Ushabti close in for combat. So they're pretty cool. It would be like really useful if they had like the like come on later rule. I forget what it's called, reserves or whatever. Skeleton cavalry cohort. This is another Royal Host thing, which is another motley crew, and it's made up of archers and spear things and whatever. I just think archers are better. I don't know why you'd have horsemen. You want chariots. Chariots are better than horses. Necro serpents are monstrous cavalry. So they're basically the they're the Necropolis Knights without the knights. I mean, they're okay, but like you've got better choices. Ushabti with bows are a way better choice than these. So Necro Serpents got Tomb Guard Chariots, so they're another thing. I think they're Royal Host special or something. Tomb Guard Chariots, where are they? Oh no, Tomb Guard Chariots may be taken as core, or they're a special. So they're just chariots with Tomb Guard in. So you know, get some Tomb Guard models, stick them in your chariots. You've got better. Again, ballistic skill 3. That makes them like hit on 4s. So again, this is why I'm saying, like, if you're going to take Settra, you're going to want to stick him in a unit of these, and you're probably going to want 4 or 5. So that's like another 250, maybe 300 points. So you're going to have this big block of like 700 or 800 points on the table somewhere, that's a lot. And it's not, it's only got a 4-up save. It's not that well defended. And then we've got some more magic items to sort of finish off this book. They're all, I mean, yeah, all the magic items from all the books give you like the ability to do like a whole variety of stuff that you kind of, so you're going to have like a weapon of more attacks. You're going to have a weapon of lots of strength and cleaving through heavy armor. You're going to have a weapon that's like does a breath attack or something. Like, all of that's pretty standard. So there's nothing really that jumps out from these. From what I can remember, that's pretty cool. Improve armor value by 1. And my will be done. So that's a bit like Settra, sort of. There we go. That's the one. Warding Splint. So it's a suit of heavy armor. A Lich Priest on a dragon can wear it. Not that a Lich Priest on a dragon needs it, sort of, because it gives it. Well, so if you got a Lich Priest on a dragon, it now has a 5 at ward save, which is actually that's not really much use, is there? Because you've already got the Amulet of Protection. That's 30 points. I mean, is there a talisman that you want to take? Not really. They got some banners. So, in order to take the Raw Stand of Settra, you got to have Settra, Nekaf, hatred of everybody, and terror. So again, I suppose that'd be useful for another unit of like chariots that's flapping around. Maybe. This one's cool. Farzerakt's Canopy. A canopy's like a jar that you normally store stuff like lungs in. A canopy may take a leadership test, single use, so it's not guaranteed. If the test is passed, place a unit of 2d6 plus 3 summoned skeletons on the battlefield within. That's really helpful, actually. If you're up against it, you can just pop up a unit of basically 10 skeleton warriors, and they're not worth any victory points. Like, they say they're not worth any victory points, but they've got the points column. Like, what? Anyway. Yeah, I mean they're rubbish. Yeah, and that's it. So I hope it's been useful. I think in general, like Tomb Kings, I've always looked at Tomb Kings and then never really known how to build the army. I think if I was going to do one, and I probably will at some point, I'll do a mortuary cult. I quite like that. Yeah, I quite like the mortuary cult idea rather than chariot riders, because you've just got some cool elite units. I can get the bone dragon, stick a high priest in a bone dragon, and then just have a load of constructs like some Ushabti bowmen and loads of venerable Ushabti. I don't quite know how I'm going to model them, but they're going to look very venerable. The only thing I don't really like out of that is like the snake cavalry stuff. I'm not sure that that's much use, but then again I could have a load of screaming skull catapults to cause problems. So yeah, that's Khemri. So I hope you found this useful. Like, share, subscribe, bell, whatever YouTubey thing, and catch you around soon.